Welcome to Q&A Selling Online, with answers to questions about creating an online empire, promoting products, or building a brand. Your host, private label and e-commerce entrepreneur, Quinn Amorm.
Welcome back, my friends. Today we have a special guest who is, at my eyes, one of the top PPC experts when it comes to Amazon. He sold physical products online for 13 years. Then he launched Amazon-focused advertising consulting practice back in 2015. And today he manages over 250 million in advertising. He also launched several communities and companies related to Amazon. Amazon PPC Troubleshooting, which is a Facebook community. Amazon PPC Consulting Association. PPC Scope, which is a software for PPC management. And Sponsored Products Academy, which is training, and Canopy management. So by now you probably know that I have Brian Johnson here with me. Brian, how's it going?
Fantastic. Glad to be here, Quinn. Thank you.
Brian, it's a pleasure having you here. So right now you are, like everybody else, due to COVID-19, you're working from home. How's that going?
It's good. So I actually have my own office here too, and I'm a one-man shop at this location because our entire staff, we've got, I don't know, a little over 60 people on our staff, but we're all around. We've been virtual the whole time, so it didn't really disrupt that at all. Mm-hmm. And so most of the time I'm working from home with my family, but I've got a 5-year-old son who's running around the house. And so, of course, for opportunities like this, I'm going to make sure I've got a nice, quiet space that I can join you with.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I have 2 2-year-olds and 1 6. So, and all 3 run around all the time. So
I'm sure.
Yeah. There you go. So you're staying safe. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
All right. So Brian, I want to start with the name Canopy Management, because I know your brands in the Canopy Management. I never knew the story. Where did that name come from?
So this was actually, I do have a business partner, Brian Burt, for Canopy Management. And we originally partnered on Sponsored Products Academy, which is on its 3rd year of course creation. And so we had actually started out, we had met actually because I had consulted him on his own advertising. He says, okay, you've got a lot more potential here. Let's go ahead and get you moving. And so he's kind of he does quite well when it comes to promotion. And so he saw the opportunity, and we basically aligned our forces and said, okay, I've got the knowledge. You've got the marketing skill. Let's go ahead and put them together and make it work. Anyway, so he is, by no means am I the branding guy. So when it comes to like coming up with brand names, company names, brand names, that's not me. That's just no, because I come up with some. So he comes up with things like Sponsored Products Academy. He came up with Canopy Management. Canopy Management, he kind of liked from the standpoint is that it basically represented, we were at the time we were focused entirely just on Amazon advertising, right? We've branched out. We're more of a full service agency now, but when we first started out, we were specifically focusing on Amazon advertising. And so we looked at it like, okay, Amazon rainforest, you got the canopy over the rainforest. We've got you covered underneath. It's a whole like double entendre kind of thing going on there, right? And of course, ever since we did that, and of course we use the green coloring, ever since then, we keep on having people who call us and say, it's like, hey, do you sell cannabis? Are you a dealer? So like, no, no, we are a full service advertising agency for brands. We are not a pot dealer. So it's kind of a funny joke that comes up now and then.
Yeah. Oh man, that's pretty cool. So now during COVID-19, are you seeing some slowdown when it comes to advertising? I guess certain categories probably have to slow down because they ran out of inventory. But there's also the positive side?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a pretty diverse portfolio. Like you mentioned earlier, is like, we're managing, 250 million. It's over that now, but in just in sales on Amazon. And so we've got a wide range of clientele and product groups, and some of those products they're getting hurt a lot. There's certainly anything that is related to public social events tend to got hurt the worst. Typically we're seeing on those like maybe a 50 to 70% drop. definitely affects how we market them and how we advertise them. We have to be very, very targeted, very careful as far as how we do that. And so we're helping them out. And then we have, at the other end of that extreme is that we have some that just had breakaway products that, of course, became opportunities during COVID, where they had a product that was just normally selling, $5,000 a month in products and is now selling $100,000 a day. It's one of those kind of like there's definite extremes on both sides of this. Now, somewhere in the middle where we've got, a bulk, most of ours, there's a reduction, maybe it's a, 20 to 30% reduction in sales. We put on, that's something that's kind of nice is that we have a practice within Canopy is that we hire the best. We've got a very high bar as far as being allowed, having you work for us. And so we hire people who are smarter than me and people who can execute, better than I can and who are better looking and, whatever combination we can get, right? That's going to make the organization better than how we founded it. And so we've got a lot of smart people who are working together on a daily basis and say, okay, what's our best approach? How do we help our clients? And in turn, how can I extend that out to the community and help the community by extension? So we've had a few projects related to just outreach and trying to add value to the community as well as obviously making sure that we're taking great care of our clients.
Got it.
So yeah, it's definitely a mix, across the board.
So right now, when we know there's certain categories that are probably advertised even more than before because you have to grab this opportunity, and there's the ones that are not. So with this, I was thinking that we have tools that can do everything, but I haven't found one that can tell me how much my competitor is spending. Is there such thing?
Well, no, not directly because Amazon doesn't like to share that information. Now, not to say that you can't get the information from certain channels within, the back doors of Amazon. Certainly that kind of stuff is available out there. Internal tools. We have a whole software development team. And so we build our own tools. Sorry, Zoom is barking at me that I'm cutting out here.
Yeah, it froze for a second. Okay.
Am I back then?
Yep.
Okay. Not sure. I'm the only one in the building. So, we built our own tools in order to compare, to do competitor analysis, to understand where the gaps are, where we need to increase spend, decrease spend. It's not like it's an automated process. It's more just better intelligence gathering, which is different than a lot of say the AI automation tools out there, which is primarily still based off of a default algorithm. And if that algorithm is wrong, like we see, occurring during the COVID, then all of a sudden it just, everything tanks, right? We're very much a very high touch, person on each account, person on each piece of data. And we're using the tools that we build for better insights and better intelligence so we can make better decisions. So while there's nothing publicly available as far as spend on competitors, there are certain clues, if you will, that are, breadcrumbs that are kind of left around that at least gives us some comparison factors when it comes to competitor products, competitor keywords, that type of thing.
There you go. And when you get to a certain level, like, for example, you manage over 250 million. Right. And I always thought that with time, like for example, on Facebook, you ended up building a certain credit, I guess, with Facebook. And my ads on Facebook, while I used to be charged, for example, when I started, every $100, $200, right, and now I can accumulate a lot of spend on Amazon. I still get charged on multiples of $500 a few times a day. Does that ever change?
No, not really. I mean, there are companies who get higher limits requested. We've got some clients that have like a 5,000 limit, but that's because they spend that kind of money on a regular basis. And so they kind of get, a special pass, I guess, or different consideration. But yeah, 500 is their default. That certainly helps Amazon's consistent cash flow to them. But yeah, there are higher limits on a case per case basis that they are feasible. Usually, you're not spending $500, more than $500 a day for most of the sellers that are out there. So I think it's more of an exception than the rule. We certainly see that with our larger clients. That's kind of normal.
Yeah. So, and to see your real ad costs, will campaign manager will never show you the real ad costs. Is that right? Like what you're really going to be billed for?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it. You can see the invoice as far as expanding out, but it's not really taking into consideration things like your cost of units sold, your cost of goods, some of your overhead expenses. It doesn't take into consideration your actual profitability or what your target is. And so it's simply just information that you have to then interpret with combine with your own data, with your own information in order to paint the whole picture. How are things? We never want to look at it from a standpoint of like, with blinders on saying this is what advertising is doing, therefore everything's healthy. It's like, no. You've got to look at the big picture and say, how is it contributing to the overall sales? How is advertising driving organic keyword rank? How is it driving overall sales? How is it, developing the branding strategy? All these things kind of play into it. And some of those are easier to measure and some of them are very difficult.
All right. So let's talk about one of those things that you probably get asked all the time. And it's when it comes to doing launches with PPC only.
Right.
And of course, there's when you're doing a launch, most of the times, I was going to say always, but most of the times that product doesn't have reviews.
Correct.
Right. Is it possible still to do launches with only PPC?
Yeah, the only challenge that you've got when you don't have reviews is it's not like it's going to change the algorithm as far as how it shows your product. Mm-hmm. It's just more going to hurt your engagement with shoppers. So you don't have that social proof, which means that your click-through rate goes down, your conversion rate goes down. So it gets a little bit more expensive if you don't have reviews. Usually what we encourage when any kind of client or a seller introduces a new product is, use programs like Amazon, Vine, the friends and family network's been kind of abused too much over the years. I think, Amazon has cracked down on that, but Amazon does have their early review program and some of these, methods. Ideally, if it's usually that's not a problem if the brand if that's not their first product. So usually they have some kind of an audience that they can reach out to, especially if they've got access to some of the newer sponsored display ads that allow you to retarget previous customers and say, hey, I'm introducing a new product. That's a great way to launch a second product, a third product, etc. Not every seller has that access. You've got to have certain qualifications like brand registry and some other qualifications in place in order to get all the different ad types. Most people don't realize there's 16 different ad placements on Amazon now. Mm-hmm. Most of them are like going, oh, I thought there was like 4 or 5, But when it comes to a new product launch, we've got a pretty specific tactic that we use when it comes to product launch, just with advertising that works great. It's very aggressive, but it has to be set up. It has to be set up very well. A very specific bidding strategy, a very specific set of keywords. There's a lot of competitive keyword research that is done, not simply just saying, oh, I'm going to shotgun and try and get in front of 500 keywords. On a launch, we're going very narrow, very targeted, very fast, very aggressive, and we monitor it on a daily basis. So it's more work, but it's effective.
All right. I like you said you go narrow on the launch because that's the opposite of what a lot of people do. They want to grab everybody, every set of eyes out there on their listing during the launch.
Well, it's even counter to what I used to teach.
Yeah.
So because I've been doing this is my 6th year now. And so in the early years, before, even last year, that was a common tactic that I had is that, my first year of teaching, the common practice would go out there, find 10,000 keywords, shove them all into a bucket and see what actually gets shown. Right. And then each year that keeps on getting more and more narrow as the tools get better, as Amazon wants to see better targeting, better intention from a brand and from a product. And now we're to the point where Amazon introduced, and it's interesting talking to large national retail brands that we get to work with, and new ones that we're talking to. A lot of them don't realize how much of a change that the ad platform has made just in the last 12 months. Mm-hmm. Normally, Amazon rolls out, here's a couple of changes they roll out each quarter. Amazon invested heavily in 2019 into their development teams, and so then they were able to start kicking out a lot faster as far as software development changes. What that meant was in 2019, Amazon was rolling out on average one new update every week. Like not small updates either, like significant updates. Oh, here's a new ad type. Here's a new way of using this ad type. Here's a new targeting control. Here's a new update to the APIs or the other data feeds that are available. And so most brands on Amazon, I would say at least probably 90% of the brands on Amazon are still using 2018 strategies, and they're getting eaten alive by those who were paying attention to the changes in 2019. They're getting crushed.
Yeah.
And so we come in and it's pretty easy for us to be a white knight because we've been tracking it the whole time, developing strategies. The minute Amazon rolls something out new, fortunately I get lead notice from Amazon. So that helps a lot there. But if for those of us who stay on top of every little change and start testing and have their own research and development team, it's easier for us to say like, oh, that's that little tweak. What does this one little change mean for a launch, for profitability, for sales velocity? And so the strategy has definitely tightened up primarily because of all these changes that happened in 2019. There's a lot more specific targeting functions and adjustments and tuning that you can do even on a launch. And so it requires more research before you start. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, it pays off because you get instant visibility, you get high sales velocity, higher organic ranking during that first few weeks, which some have called, the honeymoon period.
Yep.
That's always a debatable topic, but it is that first few weeks is where you've got to get that sales velocity. Now, I will add is that that doesn't just have to work just on a new product launch. You can take a dead product and relaunch it. Definitely feasible. We do it all the time.
So that's a good point. So I wanted to ask you about old campaigns versus new campaigns and the performance of them. If I have a campaign that's been running, for example, a campaign that's been running since early 2019, and it's, right, let's say, a year old now, does it work like Facebook that it gathered a lot of information and now it knows the audience, so it works better? Or does it actually work against you having an old campaign?
No, it's I mean, it could be in your favor or against you either way. It depends on how well it develops. Primarily, there is some truth as far as like how a campaign, how a learned target audience comes about, as far as how Amazon's AI looks at campaigns and the audience, the advertising. There's a lot of things that feed into that. Traditionally, and again, this is more of like pre 2019, traditionally, or pre 2020, technically. A lot of times what we would do is, it made a huge difference in the age of the campaign, especially if it's less than 4 weeks old. If it's a new campaign, it typically would not get the visibility because Amazon just has a very low trust factor of that. Google's got the same thing. Facebook has the same thing. It's like, well, I don't trust this new campaign until I learn, not just learn, but also there's some credible metrics that get behind it that can support whether or not it trusts the campaign or not. And so all these changes that occurred in the last year, that was a common practice. Like, look, a new campaign you definitely don't want to do unless you absolutely have to. Always try to reuse a mature existing campaign because that's going to perform better. That has changed because Amazon has introduced methods for us to bypass their judgment, if you will. Mm-hmm. That has to do with things like the targeting and the bidding strategy options that are available. You can either use their classic method where they make a prediction of how well your ad is going to do relative to a shopper, and then they're going to adjust your bids and your placement and all that kind of stuff on your behalf, when in fact actually what they do is they bury anybody they don't trust and they hire those that are established and they do trust. We figured out, as far as like our current launch strategy is using bidding strategies that bypass that judgment. So we just say, don't care what you think, just show my ad and show it aggressively. And so there's ways working around that, but that wasn't available, more than a year ago. That's all things that have changed in the last year. So it used to be that, like, yes, absolutely, you always use a mature campaign because it's going to perform better. But that has changed quite a bit because there's better controls for us to kind of, force it, if you will.
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, I remember having lots of inside a campaign, lots of ads, and the ads could have 999 keywords.
Right.
And I don't see those anymore. So I don't know if people are still doing ads with 999 keywords. But what used to happen was out of the 999, 980 could barely get impressions, right? And then there was a few percentage that would get those impressions. Would that right now, is it true that the ones that are not performing well will ruin the rest of the ad performance? I mean, the visibility.
They're not getting ad impressions?
Yes.
No, it won't make any difference at all.
No.
Yeah, it's primarily because Amazon is looking at it first and foremost, they're looking at relevance. And they want to know, is the search term or the keyword that you are trying to advertise for relevant to the particular customer and what their search and what their intent is? Amazon is literally using their machine learning in order to judge the shopper just as much as the advertiser. And so they're judging the shopper based on, is your intent to actually purchase today? And I'm going to show you different ads and different products depending on where I think that your intent is. That's based off of what's their browsing behavior, what's their purchase history, what click path have they done in the past. All these things that we don't see as sellers, as advertisers, we don't see any of that data. But Amazon has got just massive amounts of data that they get to work with. And so they can make that kind of predictive judgment of a shopper, and they will show different types of ads based off of what they think they predict the intent of the shopper is. So that really is what drives it. And so the rule that I usually have when it comes to keywords is on a per product basis. So that's campaign, ad group agnostic. Doesn't matter like if I've got one keyword in a campaign or if I've got 10,000 keywords in a campaign or ad group or campaign, right? It doesn't matter. Amazon's going to say, for this product, I am only willing to show ads for maybe 250 to 300 of those keywords. Out of that, the expectation is probably 75 to 100 of those will actually get clicks, as in relevance to the shopper. Mm-hmm. And out of that, maybe 10 to 30 of those actually get orders. And so it's a funnel, right? Mm-hmm. But what that says is that Amazon has kind of a narrowed focus, and they say, look, for your product, don't care if you've got your product in 50 different campaigns and ad groups, don't care. I'm going to spread it out so that the number of keywords that I'm going to regularly show ads for is going to be a finite amount. There's not a hard amount. It's kind of, it's speculation through observation as far as that number is. But your observation is definitely correct, is that there's only a limited number of keywords that Amazon is willing to show ads for per product. Now, of course, Amazon has 3 ad platforms and 16 different ad placements and, all these other kind of targeting options that are available now. So there's tricks to get around that. But in general, you're absolutely correct in the observation is that it's a very narrow focus. And that's one of the reasons why anytime we launch, we say, what has the highest relevance and the tightest focus to a shopper, to what to them actually having a buying intent. Now, most people translate that as a long tail keyword versus a short tail keyword. But ultimately, it's what is actually demonstrating conversions for the competitive set for the competitors, and where can you focus on that you actually have a chance, against 800-pound gorilla competitors that we might be competing against.
So you used to do the discovery campaign, which was an auto campaign so Amazon would give you the data, right? Is that still a common practice today?
It is. I mean, so mostly what I do is we always run automatic campaigns. We continue to run automatic campaigns because, again, automatic campaigns that introduced in 2019, they introduced a bunch of new targeting controls that most people don't understand how to use. They also don't realize how granular you can get within automatic campaigns and what the effective use of those are. But the nice thing about having a team like mine with the processes we have is that we have kind of the luxury, if you will, of being able to have staff available to do competitive research and to be able to go out and say, okay, we're going to pick and choose which specific keywords we're going to target. Most sellers, they're a one-man shop, right? A one-woman shop. They don't have the luxury of like, oh, I'm going to spend the next 3 days doing competitive research. It's like, no. It's much easier, and that's one of the reasons why I teach it, is start out with a discovery campaign and on the same day create your manual campaign. Don't delay the two. automatic campaign, manual keyword targeting campaign. Start with those two. Those are the two core campaigns that will produce, at least 50% of your sales long term.
Yeah. And then when it comes to category targeting,
right?
So there was, sometimes our own thoughts could be the killer of good ideas, because I used to think that category targeting was going to be a big waste, right? You're targeting the category and there was not too many ways to actually filter it down. But after trying it, I had some amazing results with a category targeting, and it's a huge category, but it took a long time to do negatives, right? To put who I don't want to see those ads.
Yeah.
And it impressed me a lot, the fact that it worked after a while. There was a lot of money wasted with it while you're perfecting that campaign, I guess.
Yeah.
But after it was perfected, it runs smoothly. Have you? I guess you work with all types of campaigns. Do you have that type of experience where that category targeting works for you?
Yeah, it can work and it can not work. So the same kind of thing happens with sponsored brand ads too. So you've got category and product targeting within both sponsored product as well as sponsored brand ads as of 2019. Again, one of those changes that most people are not even aware of. But specifically from a category targeting is most sellers who don't know how to properly test it, don't have the experience of all the different testing out there. Unfortunately, it's just kind of an earned knowledge, right? It's earned either because you paid the money in order to test it until it actually finally, you forced it to work through spending money, right?
Yeah.
Well, we do the same thing through time and money, and oftentimes I'll beat up my account and my business partner's account on experiments that may turn out to be just completely unprofitable, so that I don't make the same mistake with a client, for instance, right?
Yeah.
Because we always want to try to win with the clients, at our expense. But what most sellers and most advertisers find is that category targeting and sponsored brand ads are usually ones where they set up one test and it fails, and they say that doesn't work. I see it constantly. And so it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't have, if you haven't invested the time, the resources to experiment, like you demonstrated, right? Kind of the tenacity to go in there and say, like, I'm going to figure this out. Most sellers don't have the patience for that. Don't want to spend this amount of time on advertising. I need to be sourcing. I need to be innovating new products and stuff like that. That's not their strong suit. They're not the engineers, the spreadsheet junkies, But I do agree with you in that it can be, has a high learning curve up front, and it can be expensive up front, and it appears not to work up front. Exactly. But if you do one of two things, either go against the grain as far as how you're doing the category targeting, or figure out how to negative out all the bad results so that you can refine it down to the good results, then it can work, and it can work well. But that takes time and money in order to do it that way. One of the techniques that you may want to try that we actually use also, and that has to do with where we're expanding out, because one of the things that I like to do within the agency for our partners is not simply just to run the standard advertising, but also to branch out to basically increase market share. Now, my expertise, of course, has to do primarily with using the Amazon advertising. We've got teams that work on demand side platform and Facebook and Google and all that kind of stuff, right? To all complement together, so there's a cumulative effect. But ultimately, from an Amazon advertising standpoint, when it comes to category targeting, we'll actually get new market share, not by advertising on our own category, but on sibling, parent, and child categories from the one that we're in. And so that allows us that's typically where you get products related to yours. That's where you're advertising on. And a lot of times you can actually kind of a hack, if you will, is if you look at your mobile phone and you look up your product, oftentimes you'll see down below on mobile. Sometimes you see it on desktop display also, but on a mobile phone, as if I'm holding one here, down below, there's typically some additional sections, things like shoppers who visited this item also visited these other items. People who viewed your product ultimately purchased this other product. you start seeing not just your direct competitors, but you see related products. You see products that have that are complementary or can be even substitute or accessories. If you do the category advertising in those other subcategories, you'll find that that's something that often most of your competitors are probably ignoring, and therefore you're not there. And then what ends up happening is that your ad for your product is in the middle of a bunch of ads for products that are related to that complementary product.
Mm-hmm.
Let me think of an example on this. Let's say you sell a basketball hoop backboard, right? And you start running ads where people are selling basketballs or nets or something like that, something related but not in the same subcategory. And if you go and you look at the search results and the product detail pages of those products for nets, let's say, you'll see a whole bunch of ads for other nets. And then sticking out like a sore thumb is your ad for this backboard. Your goal is to stand out from the crowd, not to simply just play along with what everybody else is doing. So that's something I teach constantly is like, how are you going to stand out? I don't care if your product is exactly like everybody else's. How is your listing standing out from the other ones? How is it how are you getting visibility? How are you getting shoppers to stop, pause for a second and look at your ad, look at your product, click through on your listing and consider it. It's a great way to increase market share.
Absolutely. If nobody clicks on your listing, it doesn't matter how good your product is. It doesn't matter how good your copy is. If nobody clicks on it to start with, you're not.
And they got to see it first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, something that I always wanted to get into, and I haven't because I don't know how, is those editorial recommendations.
Right.
You know, that is like prime real estate where they have those recommendations. And I think it's just 3 products is this from the Amazon influencer blogs?
Yeah, it's not something that you've got control over. In other words, you don't have editorial control over it yourself, but it is typically from those that Amazon has deemed as being of authorities and saying, oh, this is the best for this reason, or this one's the most cost effective in this price bracket. Usually the editorial and the choice bands that usually come up in the search results are typically only on the higher search volume keywords. In other words, you start getting into long tail keywords, you won't see those.
Yeah.
But you can, of course, influence like Amazon Choice Badge, so you can get in that one. Sometimes if you get either lucky or you find out who the influencers are that are actually providing the editorial recommendations, then maybe you can get in with them. That usually requires off Amazon strategy as well as on Amazon strategy.
Yeah, Amazon invited me to for the Amazon influencer program. Mm-hmm. I accepted, and I thought that was it. I was so stoked, so excited, and I thought, okay, I'm going to be able to do this. And of course, I'm going to use my own product, right? But no, so I accepted, and all it does is that they give me my own URL. It'll be amazon.com/my name.
Right.
And I can put my recommendations in my own store and basically become an affiliate. I'm like, okay, that's not what I wanted.
Right.
But okay. So anyway, I got a verified Amazon influencer account, if that matters for anything. But I can't do the editorial, so it sucks.
Very good. Yeah, I'll probably want to pick your brain on that one of these days to see if there's any play that you can kind of extend that out a little bit better. But I'm always looking for opportunities like that. That's kind of one of the reasons why I enjoy heading up our research and development department. So,
yeah, I created my lists, my own Quinn's recommendations, right?
Right.
And I mean, to be completely honest, I couldn't just put all my products in there because then everybody would know who my products are. Right. So I would go and I find like in my category, who is the number one, right? If I'm not the number one, I would put the number one in there. And then, of course, mine would be in that same list of let's say 8 items or whatever. But yeah, so they haven't showed up on the editorial yet.
Right.
So anyway, changing gears a little bit, I saw that you were doing something with Russell Brunson, but to be honest, I missed what it was. Is it public yet, or is it still some secret? What are you guys doing?
No. It's public. It wasn't. We weren't promoting anything actually. So we were simply it just became an opportunity that my business partner Brian Burt, I mentioned, has been a close associate with Russell Brunson for many years. Part of his inner circle. Has got all of the God, what has he got? He's got the 2 comma and the X award and multiple ones. I should say he's got a whole wall of them. But ultimately, it was one of those rare opportunities where I don't know. I don't know if it was because of Russell was bored because he was staying at home, or if he was probably doing Brian a favor, just because of the relationship, the connection. But we got a chance to actually get him on live for an interview, which he doesn't typically do, nor does he do it in the Amazon space.
Yeah.
But it did align with my belief, of course, is that it's not just a matter of, a few years ago, you could do everything on Amazon and live inside the bubble, right? But most Amazon private label sellers don't realize that there's a lot more money outside of Amazon than there is on Amazon, even given its size. And so that's one of the reasons why, driving your own external traffic, building your own email list, building your own traffic source, that's kind of a tried and true, that's been around for forever. It's like, you probably were marketing in the same days as me when it came to, Google AdSense and, promoting sites and SEO and all this kind of stuff. And it always came down to, you can't rely on a single channel or a single method. You have to get control of your own audience and actually own them. And on Amazon, you do not. That is Amazon's customer. And so there's certainly there's a lot of debate when it comes to, well, if I drive external traffic onto Amazon, aren't I just paying to give Amazon traffic? Yes and no, because you still have the ability to direct that traffic and have a touch point with that traffic that you generated. First of all, you know how to do it when you need to, especially when it comes to new product launches. 2 is you've got some amount of control in being able to contact those customers for future launches. Or if you said, I'm going to open up a Shopify site this month. Great. Now you know how to go redirect over to your own site. You want to start developing those skills now rather than waiting until all your competition has shown you the way. That's a bad time to learn,
Yeah. I often see competitors that are doing really well on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And there is nothing that shows me on Amazon the reason why they should be performing so well. And that is, or most cases, it is because they actually are very strong outside of Amazon. So when they finally go into Amazon, they already have a following. And I try all the time. I have Shopify sites, ClickFunnels, a lot of funnels that are directed to other blogs, and I still try to do with SEO since back when I was the only one around the computer. But
you are currently using ClickFunnels then?
Yes, yeah.
You ought to check out the interview. We actually have that. We posted that. Let's see. The replay I think is posted up in my Facebook group in the Amazon PPC troubleshooting group.
Yeah.
So if you're in that, then you should be able to get access to the replay on that if you want.
Okay, yeah, I am there, so I'll check it out. All right, so Brian, and I agree with you and Russell and everybody that says that we got to expand outside of Amazon, because this is a beautiful opportunity, and whoever is not on Amazon should at least try and give it a shot, because the millions of customers that they have that are buying there daily is just phenomenal opportunity, right? But there are things that, for example, just this week, I created for the first time a merchant account with Wish. Okay. I never thought I would do that, right? I thought when Wish came out and I bought a couple things there to try it out, I figured, okay, this is the next eBay, and I don't even want to be associated with it. And then next thing I know, they do 2 million sales a day, not $2 million, but 2 million sales per day. And they actually have, and I thought FBW was going to be the Fulfilled by Walmart, which is on the go. I'm already on the waiting list for that. But it's not called FBW because Wish took over FBW. and it's fulfilled by Wish. I didn't know that existed. So the opportunities for outside of Amazon are there too. And I mean, you should, to secure your business, everybody should just look at those and at least, grow it now, because we see so many people that get suspended or suppressed from Amazon and they don't know why. And I always tell people, Amazon has a reason. If they suspended you, they have a reason to do so. You may not know what you did, but you did something most of the times, right? Most of the time.
Well, and there's always the chance, of course, that there was somebody else who was simply just attacking, that you had a certain level of success and therefore you got attacked. Mm-hmm. Usually that's pretty easy to detect because it usually happens 1 to 2 weeks prior to Prime Day and 1 to 2 weeks prior to Black Friday. Yes. Those are the sweet spots for attackers, if you will. But yeah, if you're like you said, if you're one-legged, you're hitting the ground. You're stuck. You're hiring a lawyer in order to fight it for you.
Absolutely. So, Brian, what is new? What are the plans for the future? Something coming out that we should know? What are you working on?
We've got a lot. So one of the things that I'm not sure if we publicly announced it or not, but so the PPC Scope software that I had founded many years ago, my agency, Canopy Management, so different partners. So we actually acquired the software. And we have invested very heavily into developing out our software development team. And we've been working on that pretty strong for several months as far as new development. And so I'm looking forward to this summer. I'm going to say somewhere between the end of May to September kind of summer range, because we've got a series of rollouts of new things, new technology. Some of those things, what I like to do when it comes to software is I like to leapfrog. I don't like to just catch up. So what I want to do is I want to leapfrog the other PPC software solutions that are out there, and that's coming this summer. And I get up every morning at 6:00 and I meet with my design team and my product managers, and we talk for an hour and a half every single morning. We've been doing that for 3 months. So it's been I lose some sleep on it, but it is it's for the greater good, right? Mm-hmm. The other thing too, of course, is that I've got because I've got 2 software development teams. The other software development team primarily works on our agency tools, and so we're doing a lot from Canopy Management standpoint in order to expand out the intelligence gathering. We have a machine learning project that we've been working on for more than a year now, actually, but it's all primarily for again that competitive intelligence gathering and analysis. It's not for bid management, for instance. Right. Bid management is a bit, I don't want to say it's small, but it's not where we want to spend that. We don't want to automate things that should still have human oversight. Right. So, it just provides primarily, the data analysis and the competitive analysis that gives us a competitive edge. It looks for, here's some opportunities that were missed, or here's some new growth opportunities, but primarily we're expanding that out in the next year to apply to both on Amazon, off Amazon, just e-commerce in general, because our agency is branched out. So now we're developing out the tools. Obviously, as kind of like the chief geek within the agency, the software and the ad strategies are something that I focus most of my attention on. And so that's obviously where I'm passionate about, is expanding all of our tool sets and leveraging our own agency team with new technology that can help on and off Amazon.
Nice. So on and off Amazon, does that mean that Facebook ads, ManyChat bots, all that kind of stuff we could?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we do. We've got a design team for listing optimization and 3D rendering, fantastic 3D renderings that we do. We have our influencer outreach program. We have, nice. Of course, all 3 ad platforms on Amazon: Seller Central, AMS, as well as DSP. And these are all things that we needed to do in order to support some of the larger brands that we work with, because they want to be everywhere. They're not like, no, not just this one sales channel. You've got to support us on everything. And so we acquired agencies. We hired people, experts in other fields. We've spent a lot of. We've actually hired senior staff out of Amazon as well.
Nice.
So Yeah, we have we've invested heavily into giving us a continuing competitive advantage, and it's really opened our eyes as far as what the capabilities that our own team has, but what happens when we are aggressive, when we invest heavily into an area, the kind of return that we can get not only for our clients but for a company overall in our growth. So it's been quite the roller coaster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I guess you're set up for the future, Brian.
Yeah, a year from now, it may look completely different than it does today, but I'm certainly loving where we are at. We've got a, fantastic team that we meet every day and we're joking around and, things are going well. So, even despite, challenging times like this, it's nice having the right people in place in order to think up solutions despite external factors like COVID. It's an event that absolutely sucks from a world standpoint, but I am blessed to be surrounded by people that that constantly want to make sure that our clients are taken care of, and certainly the audience. A lot of that I project back out into the live webinars and the posts and the lives and that kind of stuff that I do out to my audience. And so it's fun. It's not every day is, not every day. It's some days it can be challenging, and some days can be 14-hour days. But I'm willing to outwork the problems and help everybody come out of this in a much better position. Those that survive are going to thrive in the next year, and I fully believe that.
Yeah, and a little bit of positivity also helps. We're in a situation where right now this month is going to suck, right? Because of the situation, not be able to restock certain SKUs, and we may have a loss, or is not really a loss, but make less $300,000 than normal.
Yep.
And at first that it hurts. Of course, it hurts, right? To lose any kind of money, but at the same time, you think about it, and if I had a 9-to-5 job and right now I was at home not getting paid because of it,
right?
This is the perfect time for anybody that's in a position to work online from home, from anywhere. Yeah, Brian, one of the things when I started working online, my dream was always be under a coconut tree, some palm tree or something, sipping, pina colada. I could always, the dream of the laptop lifestyle, and now that it happens, I haven't been under a palm tree, right? I'm always wherever the best internet connection is, not where the palm trees are, right?
See, that's where I kind of, as an engineer, I'm like, well, yeah, but if you're under a clear blue sky, then the glare on your laptop. Okay, first of all, that's the first problem. Yeah. You shouldn't be having a laptop while you're sitting on the beach.
Exactly. So it doesn't happen that way, but we're definitely in the best situation right now to be able to work online and from home.
Yeah.
So perfect.
Well, and it's let's not kid ourselves. It's not like say in my case. So for instance, I do have multiple companies, but for each of my companies, the way that I've got it set up for primarily for taxes, as I'm an employee of each one, right? And so I may be the founder, I may be a partner, whatever, but I get paid as an employee. And I've with my business partners and myself in each company, we're not taking a salary until this is all over, to ensure that all of our staff stay employed, so we can provide a certain amount of job security. Now, I don't say that it's like, ooh, I'm so cool and everything. It's just like, look, this is the reality. Is that if you're a business owner, there are some hard decisions that you have to make. If you're a one-man shop, guess what? You're both the employee and the owner at the same time. And it's going to be tight, but I don't expect that this is going to go beyond, for instance, Amazon pushing Prime Day out to, they said at least July. Let's call it August, right? I don't see any reason why they are not judging that based off of what they've done with capacity. Now that carriers like U.S. Postal Service and FedEx and UPS are starting to get their processes fixed. Yeah, that was the biggest bottleneck that I think even Amazon had. I think a lot of this stuff is going to recover And by, come, I'm going to say just August, right? I think by August, I think we're going to be back to a much more, I will say normalized. I wouldn't say normal, but more normalized, so that we can go into a strong fall and fourth quarter. And I think that's, ultimately, if any business owner who is struggling right now, that is part of being a business owner. And you will know that you are cut out for this if you survive. Don't blame anybody else and just come up with a solution for yourself. If you're that kind of person who can solve your own problems right now under the worst conditions, man, you're going to be somebody to watch. You're somebody I want to know, because you're going to be somebody who's going to break out and thrive when times are good, because you solve your own problems when times are bad.
Yeah, exactly. That's what mindset is super important too, right? And be able to pivot and adjust to any situation. Those are the ones that are going to last a long time.
Right.
So Brian, Canopy Management is where people can find you, or is there a better place?
No, yeah, I mean, Canopy Management is my agency, correct? Yeah. And we actually just acquired the canopymanagement.com because so many people didn't realize that .management was also a TLD, right? It's also a domain name. Yeah. So it's Canopy Management is the agency. I would also invite, certainly, of course, I've got the PPC Scope software, but really I want people to hold off until this summer when it gets really cool, and we'll announce that. And then, but certainly if they are in the Amazon space and in the advertising space, if they're not already part of the 19,000 seller community of Amazon PPC troubleshooting on Facebook, that's a great place to start.
So before you go, I want to ask you something. PPC Scope had really good pricing when it comes to, for example, certain softwares have a price per spend. So if I spend $5,000, I get one price. If I spend 50, I get another price. And PPC Scope had it for the number of SKUs. Is it still going to be that way?
You know what? We haven't changed our pricing model in at least 2 years. It's probably due for an overhaul.
Yeah.
But I would say that right now, we do basically have SKU bands, and for some people that doesn't work. For some it's kind of like, oh, that's too expensive because maybe I'm a wholesaler and I've got 10% margins, or whatever the case is. So there's some cases where it's just not a good fit right now. But we may change it if it makes more sense for the user base. But right now I'm just trying to focus on getting it so that we've got, you can manage your sponsor products, you can manage your sponsor brand ads, you can manage your sponsor display ads. DSP is on our radar because we already have, the early adopter. We're part of the Amazon's early adopter program regarding technology. And so we get access to a lot of this stuff early. And so we will probably try to roll that out. I don't know that it's going to happen by September, but I'm really hoping it does. But to be a full on Amazon ad platform, we'll see what happens the following year, though.
Nice. Yeah. Nice. Good stuff. So we'll keep our eyes open for that. And I'll also try to find that a video of you and Russell, because I'm curious to see what's going on there.
Yeah, it should be just right in that Amazon PPC troubleshooting group. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. Sure. We'll have to do this again. It took years for this to happen, so I guess we'll have to do it again soon.
I appreciate that. Yeah. No, I look forward to it.
Thanks, Brian.
Cool.